Whenever we talk about Portland's image problem, we get two kinds of responses.
Over.
And people who will always defend their city. But let's try to take a more nuanced approach, because the truth is, Portland does have problems, but it doesn't mean they can't be fixed. And I feel like we're getting a bunch of mixed messages on when to wear masks and how vaccine passports could factor into the whole thing, especially after the Oregon Health Authority said this.
We would anticipate that an establishment, a business, will have to have a system in place for asking about vaccine status and verifying that.
Here's the story.
I've got that Monday feeling. Hello. Oh, that Monday. I'm Dan Haggerty. Welcome to the story. All the ways to communicate with us at the bottom of your screen. Use that hashtag HeyDan. You could also email us at thestory@kgw.com. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff. Look, we need to hear from you, and we always do. We have a full inbox almost every night, and it's because we're talking about important topics like this one in our big story tonight. And we're going to kick things off with the big story and perceptions of downtown Portland. Right away, I know what you're thinking. Whew. Okay, dark turn. It's a Monday, but look, bear with me. You're right, first of all, okay, with all the problems we have downtown. And it's been a very tough year for the city. Riots, vandalism, fires, homelessness seeming out of control, a spike in deadly shootings. I'm going to stop there. I can keep going. We hear from you about these problems every single night, but now there is some new data to back up these anecdotal perceptions that people have. And the question remains, what does the city do with that information? Here's Maggie Vespa.
No city in America is at its best right now. 2020 made sure of that. But Portland has had a particularly rough go. Months of nightly protests, a booming housing crisis and trash problem, and a deadly spike in gun violence all seem to collide in the city's downtown core. Now, as vaccine rates rise and Oregon opens up, a new poll is shining a light on just how much damage has been done to the area's rep. And before you ask,
did these findings surprise you?
The results were pretty much what you'd expect.
Not necessarily a surprise.
Jamie Goldberg is a business reporter with the Oregonian Oregon Live. The paper commissioned this poll with the help of Portland-based DHM Research, who surveyed 600 people across the metro area, aka the people who pre-pandemic came downtown to work, go out to eat, and frankly, spend money on a regular basis.
There's been polls around what business owners think about downtown. There's been polls around what tourists perceive of downtown. But we really wanted to look at what this meant for Portlanders and people in the metro region in general.
When asked about safety, 42% of people polled said downtown was much less safe than it was a year ago. Another 21% said it was somewhat less safe. When asked about why people don't come downtown as often anymore, more than 60% listed a combination of protests, homeless camps, and general concerns about safety. Goldberg says the findings absolutely mirror what she's heard in her reporting. But there was some nuance.
There are plenty of people and people that took this poll that don't think downtown is unsafe, that really think that the issues that may be facing downtown are mere issues throughout the country and aren't any different here in Portland.
Some business owners don't care about that distinction.
I'm not pleased at all, nor are my colleagues. Everyone is wondering what's going on.
George Schweitzer is the managing director of the Benson Hotel. It's no secret tourism has plummeted since COVID hit, but he adds the businesses around his hotel are hurting too.
We want our city back. You know, we want people to be able to enjoy themselves and come downtown and not be fearful.
Enter Portland City Council. KGW reached out to the mayor's office about this poll, but got no response. That said, the entire council did release a joint statement to the Oregonians saying, quote, "We are grateful for Portlanders' patience, share their sense of urgency, and are actively working on further policy changes that will meet the community's needs." Commissioners also pointed to the latest city budget passed last week. It pours millions of dollars into tackling key issues, namely homelessness and trash. It does not give any more money to the city's strapped police bureau, but does devote millions of dollars to community groups working to combat gun violence. Whether it will work and how quickly change may come remains to be seen. It's worth noting the poll also asked how people feel council is handling issues like homelessness and the protests. In both cases, more than 70% said they disapproved of the job officials are doing. Maggie Vespa, KGW News.
Now, I know you love when we talk about solutions, so let's talk about solutions. What are your thoughts? What do you think can be done to solve some of the problems in the city of Portland? Or maybe you know somebody that's already out there doing some good, some programs that we should be highlighting on this show. Please let me know. Let me know your thoughts. Send us an email at thestory@kgw.com. Use the hashtag HeyDan on Twitter or send me a message on Facebook. Now, you may have missed it last week during all the mask confusion, but the OHA basically said they're pushing for vaccine passports. That means people who get vaccinated can show their little card and we'll go back to some type of pre-pandemic type world with other vaccinated people who don't get vaccinated will not get that little card and will continue to live with outdoor dining and live music via Zoom. Here's Oregon State epidemiologist Dean Seidlinger telling us that the OHA will likely require businesses to check for proof of vaccination.
We would anticipate that an establishment, a business, will have to have a system in place for asking about vaccine status and verifying that. Right now, I would anticipate that would be seeing a card with the individual's name, the vaccines they've gotten, and the date and where they've gotten them. That could be a picture of that vaccine card or record from their provider on their phone.
Now, our reporter who did that story, Pat Doris, you know him well, did that interview on Friday, and he must have been as surprised to hear what was said as I was when I heard it on the show and when I was doing the interview, talking to him about the interview, because he also wanted some clarity there. He asked Dr. Seidlinger a follow-up, asked why Oregon would require a vaccine passport when the CDC guidelines do not.
Because in order to meet the CDC guidance that someone who is vaccinated does not need to wear a mask or keep their distance, we need to know who is vaccinated. So we need someone to be able to disclose that their vaccination status and show that so that they can remove their mask in the setting and not keep their distance.
Okay, so just to be clear, the White House said that Americans will not need a vaccine passport mandated from the federal government. Dr. Fauci has said he won't recommend that we mandate vaccine passports. And Multnomah County's top doctor recently told us this.
I publicly have never supported the notion of a vaccine passport. Very few people have, because it really raises so many other policy questions around enforcement and equity questions around people who just haven't had a chance to get vaccinated.
Now, for all the people at home who are vaccinated people who are saying, look, I'm ready to pack a movie theater again, and I will fully support showing a vaccine card to help me do that. Well, let me explain some of the legal problems that we have discussed several times on this show, and I'll do it with a really quick breakdown and just one brief example of many. See, in Oregon, you can be exempt from the vaccine for religious reasons. So if your employer or school or local bar doesn't let you in because you're not vaccinated, and the reason you're not vaccinated is your religion, well, that could be discrimination and protected by the Civil Rights Act, among other things. Basically, a lawsuit waiting to happen. Yet the OHA said what they said. So we sent a transcript of what they said to us, to the governor, and asked this. Can OHA provide more context to this statement Dr. Seidlinger made last week? Does this mean businesses will need to use a vaccine passport type system if they want to let people inside without masks? And they responded with this, in part saying OHA will not be issuing new guidance today. It is going to take public health officials more time to work out all of the complexities and details for this significant shift in guidance, referring to the CDC's guidance on masks and vaccinated people, including key details like vaccination verification for fully vaccinated individuals. So it kind of not really an answer, just saying not right now, maybe a don't listen to what Dr. Seidlinger said on your TV show the other day kind of response. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he was speaking out of turn. Maybe he was speaking too quickly, showing too many cards. I don't know. Either way, it's confusing. More confusing messaging from the people in charge, especially considering the governor's office told us this in early April. At this point, so-called vaccine passports are not an item under active consideration, as there are a number of privacy, equity, and implementation questions surrounding the idea. And you might be saying that was early April. Things changed, Dan, which is true, but I'm not sure how closely that applies in this situation, because we knew a vaccine was coming. We knew people would refuse that vaccine, and we knew businesses would want to open ASAP, especially when there are millions of protected people ready to buy what they're selling. None of that has changed. We knew this was coming. And we still have to wait. So we'll wait. But if you have questions while we wait that you think we should be asking, I'll forward them to the governor. Let me know. Use the hashtag #HeyDan. In the meantime, why don't we count some vaccines? We like to do that every day. More than 2,073,000 Oregonians have gotten at least their first dose. And that puts us at about 49% of the state's, what did I say, 49? I said 49, I meant 59. That's why we put it real big behind me there, because I don't always say the right stuff. 59.2% of the state's population. I wasn't talking to myself. I got a guy in my ear telling me I misspoke. In Washington, more than 3.56 million people have gotten at least their first dose, which works out to be about 58% of that state's population, 16 and older. Both states are trying to get that group, 16 and older eligible people, to 70% to then fully reopen. Now, we got a few questions about booster shots recently, like this one we got from Tia. Since they are talking about the likelihood of needing a booster vaccine within 6 to 12 months of completing 2 shots, can we just go ahead and sign up to get the 3rd shot now if we were in that first wave in December or January? So the short answer is no, not right now. You can't do that. You should not schedule another vaccine dose if you're already fully vaccinated. And that's because booster shots have not been recommended by the CDC or approved by the FDA on any level. You probably saw this headline last month that the CEO of Pfizer said people will likely need a booster dose within a year. But look, he doesn't actually get to decide that kind of stuff, all right, just because he's in charge of one of the companies making one of the vaccines. Here's what Dr. Fauci said about that on Meet the Press.
It is going to be a public health decision. It's not going to be a decision that's going to be made by a pharmaceutical company. We're partners with them because they're supplying it. It'll be an FDA CDC decision.
He says he thinks that decision could come by the end of summer or early fall. And that's because, well, frankly, scientists really don't know what's happening in that realm yet. They still have to study this type of stuff. They don't know how long fully vaccinated people remain immune. They're studying it as we speak. But the CDC director says the U.S. is planning for booster shots. They're planning just in case. And the vaccines will still be free if they're needed to control the spread of the pandemic. So we'll keep you updated and posted on what happens next.
Losing your home in a wildfire is already horrible enough. But then imagine being bounced around between 9 different hotels while you try to figure out a place to live.
It was hard to find affordable housing before the fires, and the destructions just made it more difficult.
And if you think we ran out of intense, hyper-partisan school board races to talk about, think again, because we're headed to Central Oregon. When the story continues.
Welcome back. I was just going through some of your emails and some of your tweets. That's always fun. Keep sending them to the story at kgw.com. Use the hashtag HeyDan on Twitter. I also want to thank everybody who signed up for our story team cleanup on Wednesday. We are partnering with Solve to pick up trash downtown. All the spots for this particular cleanup with our team, they're filled up right now, but you can sign up for another one on Solve's website and do your part to clean up this town the way that so many of our viewers have asked us to help do this. Last week, we launched our new Hey Help campaign to give back to the community. And all this week, we're asking for you to consider donating to Solve to help support the work that they do for the environment, for this area, not just the city, but the state here. Just open the camera on your phone, point it at the QR code you see on your screen, and it'll take you to a donation link. We're calling this a micro donation drive. So feel free to give any amount. I mean, no matter how small it is, give $1, anything to help out. Each week, we're going to highlight a different cause. So if you know of any nonprofit or organization that is in need, that would need our viewers to reach out and just give a little something, whatever they can give, let me know with the hashtag HeyDan or send an email to the story at kgw.com. Now, tomorrow is Election Day in Oregon, so if you misplaced your ballot, it's time to go find it. These special election years, they don't have the big presidential races or the big congressional races, but they are still very important. Most of your ballot is probably going to be filled with school board races, and some of them are getting pretty contentious. We've been hearing from people across Oregon and Washington who have been seeing things that they've really never seen before at a school board race, like, I don't know, people bringing rifles to a school board forum in the Beaverton School District, and political action groups spending thousands of dollars to back their candidates. These school board seats are unpaid positions, by the way, and they're supposed to be nonpartisan, but it's 2021, so this is what we get. The school board race in Bend is getting national attention. The Bend Bulletin has been reporting on it, and their coverage is worth your time. 4 conservative candidates have refused to participate in local forums where members of the community ask the candidates questions, find out what they think, where they stand on certain topics. But instead, they have gone on Fox News to talk about, quote, wokeness and white guilt in the schools. Fox News host Laura Ingraham says they're running, quote, on a platform of breaking the woke monopoly that's brainwashing their kids. They're upset about critical race theory, and for one thing, in schools. We've told you about that before. It's a framework that examines the way that racism impacts people across all subjects. But some conservatives say it treats students unequally, and they're worried that it makes white kids feel guilty about being white. We're going to be digging more into critical race theory this week, so please send us your questions and your comments on it. And remember, the school board influences a lot of things. They hire the superintendent, they establish the district's policies, they negotiate salaries and benefits, and they handle the district's budget, which at times can be millions and millions of dollars. Not to mention, a lot of politicians actually start out as school board members, including Oregon Secretary of State Shemia Fagan, who is now second in line to be the governor. We talk a lot about homelessness on this show. Sometimes it's a crisis that you see for yourself with people sleeping in tents on the street. Other times, it's a lot more hidden. Like, for example, a wildfire victim who has lived in 9 different hotel rooms over the past 8 months. Christine Pitawanich spoke to a woman in that situation, and she also found out that fire victims are getting some help with more permanent housing.
I have a view of the river, kinda. So that's really nice.
Sabrina Earle gave us a tour of her hotel room. The 23-year-old and her family ran from the fire that burned their home in Otis last September.
And it's just orange behind the whole entire house.
Since then, it's been a tough road.
And this is my 9th hotel room.
And she hopes this hotel will be her last.
I guess they're supposed to help us with finding another permanent place.
She's staying at the Inn at Lincoln City. Fortify Holdings, a real estate business that turns hotel and motel rooms into affordable housing, recently bought it.
The Fortify effort is an act of social entrepreneurship, if you will, is really unique in providing this resource.
That's Ed Flick, Director of Emergency Management for the Oregon Department of Human Services.
So I'm responsible for providing shelter to Oregonians displaced by the fires. With 4,000 homes destroyed across Oregon, it's just been very difficult for survivors to find affordable housing. It was hard to find affordable housing before the fires, and the destructions just made it more difficult.
Flick says Fortify Holdings is working on converting hotel rooms in Southern Oregon and on the coast, something that should help the difficult housing situation.
So there's a total of 360 currently in Jackson County that we have under contract, and there's another 100 in Lincoln County.
While rooms are converted to affordable housing units, fire survivors will be staying, with the state footing the bill. Down the road, when the rooms are done, they'll be available for fire survivors if they choose. Back inside Earl's hotel room, she's not sure what the future holds, but she's feeling grateful.
It's stressful, but at least we have a good place to stay.
Flick with Oregon DHS says the effort will help alleviate pressure on commercial hotels that are eager to get back to their core business as COVID restrictions ease and tourist season approaches. At this point, he says there are a little over 1,100 fire survivors staying in various state-funded hotel rooms and other properties. Christine Pitawanich, KGW News.
Okay, keep sending in your questions and your comments. Use that hashtag #HeyDan. I'm going to read a few in just a bit. But first, we got a great request to look into the KGW vault for Portland's favorite submarine. We'll finish the story right after this. Welcome back. We love when you send us suggestions from the KGW vault, like this one I got from William. Hey, Dan, I'm a Portland Submarine veteran. I served on the USS Barble, which was the lead ship of the 3-ship Barble-class submarines. The Barble is gone, as is the Bonefish. But the remaining sub is the Blueback, which is now a wonderful museum exhibit at OMSI. I was hoping you could dig deep into the vault and see if there were any KGW articles about the opening of the Blueback exhibit at OMSI. This old diesel boat sailor would be grateful. Well, perfect timing, sir. The anniversary of the Blueback opening to the public at OMSI was actually on Saturday. It opened May 15th, 1994. Here's some photos that OMSI sent us of the Blueback being delivered to the museum. We checked our own archives and found a story from 4 years later when the submarine got a pretty big facelift. So let's go into the KGW vault.
She looked like a huge metal whale, black nose rippling upriver. It's the USS Blueback submarine, more than 200 feet long, more than 2,000 tons in weight, being towed home to OMSI Tuesday after nearly 2 months in dry dock.
It looks so much better than it did when it came in. When it came in, it had up to a ½ an inch of cracking paint.
Overhauling the Blueback required first a monster sandblasting job to get rid of both cracking paint and rust. Underside, her ballast tanks had become clogged with 40 tons of mud. Later, with the Submarine a striking sight in dry dock, workers would apply 800 gallons of fresh paint. Now, all that work is done.
There are some additions that we added inside, new carpeting, new seats, new lighting, and new special effects for the tours that we really think our visitors will enjoy.
That work did not come cheap. In all, roughly $500,000 in labor donated by local shipyard workers. Melody Close donated more than 3 full weeks of her time doing welding repairs.
I liked doing it. It was something that needed to be done.
Tuesday morning at the Cascade General Shipyard, the Blueback wrapped up her stay. Workers who helped with the job piled aboard for the quick ride upriver. By midday, the Blueback was back home alongside OMSI. Inside now, the $500,000 refurbishing job has made the sub steadier in the water and friendlier to visitors.
New painting in here, new upholstery on the chairs in here.
I love it. I love looking to the vault. Hey, got a couple of questions here. Bridget writing in and saying, Dan, please don't stir up trouble for the fun of it. You're better than that. Nobody's denying entry to unvaccinated people. No need for a lawsuit. The unvaccinated just have to keep their masks on. We're not stirring up any trouble. We're talking about a conversation of something that might inevitably happen. People don't want to wear masks. Businesses know that once we reach 70% in Oregon and they open up fully, if they can offer an environment where people don't have to wear their masks inside, people are going to be more inclined to do that. But if the stipulation through the governor and through the state is that they can only fully have everybody inside with no mask on if they can prove that they're vaccinated, well then we're going to get into this vaccine passport conversation. We just want to have the discussion because it is a potential inevitability, so a potential inevitability, that's kind of an oxymoron, isn't it? But we'll figure it out, all right? So Sally wrote in and said, can you address the guidelines for varsity basketball attendance for those vaccinated? Please consider the Metro League and the PIO, all that kind of stuff. You should check in with them because as it stands right now, regardless of what the CDC said, regardless of what the governor said the other day when she talked about vaccinated, unvaccinated, mask, no mask, it's going to be up to these individual organizations right now. And just my opinion on it, be a good person. We've been doing this long enough. Bring your mask with you and read the room. Make sure if people are wearing masks, you go inside somewhere, wear the mask. We want to be good people to each other. This has been a long enough year, don't you think? Let's be nice to one another and be polite. And then Craig said the poll about Portland was only Portlanders. I would like to see a poll from people outside of Portland. You might see a big swing from what Portlanders really, what they said. I have no desire to go downtown. I live in the Gorge. That's your prerogative, and you might know a ton about downtown and still have that opinion on it. But I will say a lot of the stories that we have done and the input we have gotten from people across the state, typically people who have not visited Portland and are only getting an impression from the collective media or the things they see online, it doesn't really reflect exactly what people who live in this city get to see in the different pockets of it, things of that nature. So we try the best to kind of show that to you on this show, to have the most accurate reflection of the way it is here as a whole, but it's tough to do unless you come see it for yourself. Maybe you should. Check it out. It's still Portland after all. And this is still the story. Thanks for being with us on a Monday. See you back in tomorrow.